The chill of Blackwater Bay seeped through every crack in the capital's foundations, coiling like a conspiracy around the stones of the Red Keep. In the deepest hour before dawn, when sailors tied their knots twice and small folk whispered charms against listening spirits, Varys stood alone on a parapet above the dark glass of the water. The eunuch's lavender silk slippers were soft enough to muffle every step, yet he did not move. He simply watched the river of night and listened, as he always did. Breath a hush, thoughts as quick and silent as the mice that nested behind the kitchens. Below him, in a hired skiff, Cavo Noblesong, once a boy soprano in Liss, now one of Varys' quietest shadows, rocked the bundle in his arms. The infant nestled there was swaddled in plain wool, its sleepy murmurs lost beneath the flap of canvas sail. To any guard patrolling the quays, the bundle might have been fishing net or smuggled saffron. But Varys knew the worth of a single life when set against kingdoms. And so his eyes, ordinarily mild as milk, glittered like wet obsidian in the moon's hard light. A gust fretted the surface of the water. Beneath it, a reflection wavered, three shapes within one shadow. Varys Cavo, and the child that might change the realm. Aegon. They had named him in the days before the sack. But that name was an invitation to knives, and knives came quickly in the mad aftermath of conquest. Better to bury Aegon as deep as any fallen prince, then raise him anew behind the mask of common blood. In the silence, Varys struck a flint, the spark brief, then cupped the glow inside a hooded lamp. The signal ducked. Orlok's whisper creaked. Cavo guided the skiff into an archway bored through the city wall, where an ancient sewer spilled sweet water from the Godswood's underground springs. There, on a slimy stone ledge, a second bundle already waited. Another baby, this one swaddled in the black wool of the Night's Watch, though no black brother had carried him south. A bastard. The parchment tucked within cribbed. Name: John.Oi. Mother: Willa. So the little parchment told. Father: Lord Eddard Stark of Winterfell. The Septon who wrote it thought the record would be destroyed. It had been intercepted instead. Two babes, one royal, one bastard. Two truths that must breathe only in shadows. The first, Aegon Targaryen, dragon hidden behind cloth, whose color spoke no lineage. The second, Jon Snow, whelp of ice-swept Winterfell carried far from the howl of direwolves. Both boys were orphans tonight, though each yet had a father who lived and breathed. Varys opened his lantern and let its orange halo spread across slick bricks, painting the scene as if by some silent Septon's stained glass window. He stooped, light catching every wrinkle of his powdered face, and cradled the two infants, one to either arm, like a pair of sleeping secrets. Then, with infinite tenderness, he set them side by side in a wicker cradle concealed within the skiff. Fire and ice, he thought, letting the shutter drop over the flame once more. Such grand words for flesh so tiny. Yet kingdoms moved on words. And kings too, if groomed by the right hand. Row, Varys whispered. The oars bit, and the river swallowed them whole. Ishem. They came ashore hours later, not at dock or quay, but on a lonelier strand 9 miles north, where bronze reeds rustled in brackish pools. A fisher's hut leaned drunkenly at the waterline, its roof patched in driftwood, its single window an empty eye. There lived Mariah and Illyrio. No, not the fat magister himself, but an elder cousin widowed by pox and content, to play wet nurse for coin heavier than any she had seen in 40 years. When Varys placed Aegon into her arms and Jon on a straw-stuffed pallet near the hearth, she simply nodded and offered a wrinkled breast to whichever mouth rooted first. The eunuch pressed a purse beneath an oilskin on the mantle. Twice a moon, a boy shall come with milk and coin, he told her. You will feed them as your own until they have teeth. After that, cook what I send and keep them stout. Teach them their letters if you can, numbers if you cannot. Humility always, anger never. If sickness takes one, send word. If strangers ask questions, show them your crippled leg and tell them you never leave this shore. There is nothing beyond it but water and ghosts. Evantra. Maria spat into the fire when she heard ghosts, as fisherfolk did to drive spirits off. Should have spat twice when the sea took my Ezen, she muttered. though the complaint held no sting. Names? They must have some before they cut teeth. Varys shook his head. Let them answer to any Cradleloin name you fancy. The true ones will come later. He left at dawn's gray edge. The tide sucked whispers from the stony beach. Gulls cried overhead. Even so, when he climbed the waiting wagon that would carry him covertly back through the river gate, he could swear he still heard infant breath. The softest hush in the world, dim but insistent beneath the cry of seabirds. Then a row. 4 years bled by like ink on parchment. Slow until one looked away, then suddenly spooled. Summer lingered, golden and forgiving. Sun beat upon the grassy hillocks north of Maidenpool, where Maria's hut had given way to something bigger. Daub walls, herb garden, coop full of fat hens. Maria moved slower now, but smiled oftener, her coin-heavy purse hidden beneath rotting floorboards. She had grown to love the boys with a fierceness no gold could tarnish. In the yard, Aegon, now called Egg by his nurse, though Maria suspected the name wrong, somehow, balanced a wooden sword across a fallen log, tongue between teeth, as he eyed a sparrow flitting from stake to stake. Jon, squatter and darker, crouched atop the log itself, arms spread like a seabird ready to dive. Bet I can tag him with one toss, he boasted, hefting a round riverstone. Toss and you'll scare him up, Egg said. Better lure. He whistled soft, 3 trills. The sparrow cocked its head. Jon rolled his eyes. The bird's daft, not tame. Aegon only smiled, steadying his sword with a finger. Maria watched from the threshold, wiping her hands on a floor-dusty apron. If any neighbor had stumbled upon the scene, they would see 2 farm brats at play, one fair as flax, the other coal-haired, both barefoot and sun-browned. They would not see Tyrion Lannister's nephew, nor Ned Stark's secret son. They would not guess that each night Maria chanted over them. One to cool the realm, one to warm it, though she could not have said why the words comforted her. Hoofbeats sounded. Slow, deliberate, burdened. A dust plume wended along the lane, and Maria's heart skipped. She ushered the boys inside. Quiet breaths, she warned. But they needed no reminder. Both had been taught silence with as much care as numbers. Out front, a rider dismounted, lithe in dusky leathers, his face hidden by a half-cowl of mottled greens and grays. Only when he reached the door, and Maria raised her lantern, did Cavo Noblesong lower his hood. Time had cinched his jaw, roughened his knuckles, but his eyes still shone like black candle flame. Good, he murmured, surveying the room. Pallet swept, hearth warm, lads alert but unafraid. Pack them 2 days' rations. They ride tonight. Maria bristled. Where? South. A tutor waits who will teach them the languages their destinies require. Before dawn the farm stood empty but for hens clucking in confusion. The boys rode double behind Cavo, blankets wrapped tight against the night air. Moonlight puddled in the road's ruts, silvering jonquil and heather. Egg dozed, cheek against Jon's shoulder. Jon did not sleep. He counted the stars Varys had once named for him. Shirak the dawn, the sword of the morning, the crone's lantern, whispering the names so softly the wind claimed each before it reached his own ear. Wah! 6 more years, and the summer faltered at last. The sky lost color by inches. Fruit soured on branches. Small folk asked whether the king kept devils for maesters, because ravens refused to leave the citadel. In the eastern hills of the Stormlands, an ivy-strangled ruin called Thistle Hall rested above a waterfall, forever humming with spray. There, hidden behind sagging tapestries, a passage spiraled downward into chill candle-lit chambers. A scholar named Morocco. The mild served as lector to the 2 boys he called his nephews. He looked like an owl who had misplaced his spectacles. All blink and flurry, but his quills kept pace with any archmaesters in Old Town. Under Morocco's tutelage, Egg and Jon devoured histories, tongues, ciphers. At 13 they spoke High Valyrian as street thieves speak curses, could trace Amethyst Empress to Azor Ahai on a map of bloodlines none but Rhaegar might parse, and could bind a broken arm with linen soaked in honey and vinegar. Yet their lessons diverged in subtle but profound measures. For Egg, Morocco emphasized poise, negotiation, the cadences of law and decree. They studied the old councils of Jaehares, the compromises of Nymeria, the riddles of cryptic Esosai trade guilds. When Egg mispronounced a Myrinese merchant's title, Morocco rapped his knuckles, for kingship tolerated no slippage. For John, the Owlmeister taught patience and the weight of silence. He taught paths through the Dornish marches that never touched road, how to pace a column of men so that none lagged nor weakened, how to gut a rabbit without blood-staining snow. In the training yard below the waterfall, John practiced with sword, spear, and bow, though always at dusk, when spray turned the air to mist and shapes blurred at 20 paces. A king's sword must be the last argument of state, Varys had once written in a letter John kept folded beneath his straw pallet. But a king's sword-gar must never tremble. The words were scrawled beneath it in John's own cramped hand. At night, the brothers, bastards still, for they had no mothers and only shadows for fathers, shared a loft hung with drying herbs. They lay beneath wool blankets, water thunder drumming ceaselessly outside. "Do you think of her?" Egg whispered one evening, eyes on the rafters. He meant the woman who had suckled them. Morocco called such questions backward-looking and useless, but late hours bred longing. "Sometimes," John allowed. He twirled a dagger in the dark, blade glinting with each pass across stray moonbeams. She smelled of salt and bread. He sheathed the dagger. "When I dream of the sea, I hear her humming." "I scarcely remember," Egg confessed, voice small. "I fear I lose more each time I try to recall." "Then remember this instead. Her last words to me. She said you and I are both branches, but the same root." John smiled into the dark. "Bastard brothers," she called us. "If wind tears one branch away, the other must reach deeper all the same." He punched Egg lightly in the shoulder. "So dig deep, little brother." "I'm older," Egg retorted, but laughed. Sleep followed, and dreams in which the waterfall poured not water, but glimmering swords, each singing a name neither boy yet knew. When she. Autumn carried rumor westward. Robert Baratheon's appetites grew monstrous. Whispers said the queen spread her own nets among the red keeps and golden lions, that the royal line diluted by the very bed meant to preserve it. The hand. Lord Arryn, noble and stern, fell ill. The hound of the Lannisters, Gregor Clegane, a mountain on two legs, tested his edge on farmers near Godric's Hollow. Storm clouds rolled but had not yet burst. Tension lay in the realm like frost on Noog's own barley. In that hush between hushes, Varys arrived at Thistle Hall. The boys met him in Morocco's library, where candles dripped wax onto scrolls older than Old Town. They had not seen the spider in 4 years, yet both knew him at once. The scent of almond oil in his powdered hair, the soft shuffle that carried no threat yet suggested traps within traps. Varys clasped forearms first with Egg, then John. Tall, he marveled, pinching fabric at their shoulders. "Steel in your gaze, yes, but yield too, else hardness becomes brittleness." Morocco bowed low. "High honor, Lord Varys." "The lads exceed expectation, though." "Of course they do." Varys smiled like sunrise across still water. "Expectation is merely the floor beneath their stride. Now we raise the ceiling above their dreams." "Neoratin." He unfurled 2 letters silken as moth wings. Egg received Felix Fowl's sigil, brown sparrow over broken spear. John, a snarling silver wolf rampant on black. No house in the 7 kingdoms bore that mark. They were covers, crafted by Varys scribes. "Boys no longer," he said softly. "A man grows beyond the walls of childhood just as a sword grows beyond its scabbard. You will embark in separate directions. Egg to Lys, where you'll study trade fleets and the currency of flesh and favor. John to Bravos, to the quiet isle there, a place where stone swallows sound. You'll learn how justice hides itself until time rips the mask away." "And?" Egg's throat bobbed. "Will we see each other again?" "That route you share," Varys told him, settling a hand on both their shoulders. "It runs beneath every sea, beneath every city, and keep. So long as it lives, you will find each other. First though, grow. Night deepened. East wind stirred library tapestries. Varys' silhouette split the candle glow. Twin shadows cast behind him like diverging roads. Remember, he whispered, bastard is but a word. So is prince. So is king. What matters is the realm, and the realm is made of mothers, sons, bakers, sellswards, crippled wet nurses. All of them want tomorrow to break brighter than yesterday. Be the dawn. He pressed 2 small iron rings into their palms, a feather etched on eggs, a direwolf's paw print on Jones. The day I call, bring dawn. With that, Varys glided away, footsteps soft but final. When, on the Lysine wharf, sweet wine barrels rolled beneath a dappled sky, and sea hawks screamed overhead. Aegon, now named Eric the Younger, merchant ward of House Fowl, emerged from the hold of the Jade Swan. Silk plastered to his skin in humid air. Scents of spiced citrus and perfumed courtesans mingled until stomach and head spun as one. His escort, a Whiplian bravo with inked teardrops on each knuckle, pointed out landmarks, the towers of pleasure, the singing bridge, the painted stairs. Eric nodded politely while palming coin for dockhands. In Braavos, Jon, now called Nestor, scribe of the silent god, stood before the Titan's colossal legs, ferried across the dark lagoon by mute boatmen. Mist beaded on his lashes like dew on iron grass. Up wide stone steps lay the quiet Isles cloister, where priests wore leaden bells that never rang. They took his weapons at the gate, but returned the feather ring without comment. Months reshaped them. Eric studied ledgers by lamplight, spice routes, shipping drafts, how to disguise contraband beneath illicit cargo. He learned the art of laughter during negotiation. The listenee responded better to mirth than menace. He dined with merchant princes whose silks trailed like jellyfish tentacles, memorized their vices, their children's names, the sums they owed to Nero Vaso the moneylender. At night he scribbled ciphered reports for Cavo, who visited once each new moon. Nestor knelt in stone corridors lit only by sunrise, copying sacred texts in ink so thick it shone black-blue. Here the priests recited every sin into clay jars, then buried them in the crypt garden, where white roses fed on confessed grief. Jon traced his thoughts along each word, learning how guilt shifted shoulders and bent backs. He sparred at dawn against silent brothers who struck without anger, parrying calm into blade. One old man, face puckered by old burns, nodded each time Jon yielded rather than press advantage. Strength, the nod implied, is most visible when held in check. When letters came, from Varys, always unsigned, each boy read them by a single candle, heart thudding. Winter creeps. The lion lifts golden claws. The stag drinks itself to death at last. The hand lies in crypt, the wolf in chains of courtesy, the dragon scattered ash on wind. But the realm can yet be spared the pyre. Grow. Soon, Eric's ink clotted between his fingers. Nestor's breath plumed cold in a cell without hearth. They did not speak, yet both felt the sudden tug of that shared root, deeper and more urgent, like a distant drum. Imantal. King Robert died hunting boar, though rumor insisted the boar wore Lannister red. Eddard Stark lost his head beneath the click of a sword. The king's justice had not forgotten to wet. War blossomed, a red, many-petaled bloom of flame, across the realm. Renly raised a peach-colored standard in the reach. Stannis brandished a bleeding heart at Dragonstone. Robb Stark was crowned beneath weirwood leaves in the Whispering Wood. Joffrey sat the Iron Throne, crown too large and conscience too small. Every boy forged in summer now marched to bleed winter across farmland. Varys lit a final candle in his secret chamber beneath Maegor's holdfast. Copper masks lined the walls. Merchant, warrior, maiden mother, stranger deity. On a low table lay 2 letters addressed, but not sealed. 3 weeks earlier his little birds had reported, Eric has cut his braid in lies, gearing a cog for sail. Nestor steps onto a Wintertown skiff disguised as merchant guard. The time had come. He pressed wax, crimson as heart's blood, to each letter. One seal bore the feather, the other a direwolf's paw. When the wax set, he tied both to a raven bred for stealth. The bird beat upward through a narrow flue toward black sky and shrieking wind. Varys extinguished the candle. Darkness folded around him like a second cloak. He waited. On the narrow sea, waves hammered hullboards in rhythm with distant thunder. Eric, cloaked against spray, read the raven's message by witchlight. Dock at salt pans. Find the crow in girl's garb? Follow her silence through the storm. He frowned, turning the parchment over as if instructions might bloom on the blank. Crow in girl's garb. Yet Varys wrote in puzzles, so spies could not decrypt what hearts would. Nestor reached salt pans the same night from opposite shore, disguised among rootless sellswords. He read identical words, save his line. Find the silver sparrow nesting in the thieves' wood. A sparrow for a feather, a crow for a wolf. He looked toward the harbor lights, flickering like dying fireflies. The roots stirred, drawing him onward. They found each other in an abandoned boathouse, dim glow slanting through cracked slats. Eric's blade clanged against Nestor's dagger before both froze, eyes widening. Then laughter burst, rough and bewildered, echoing off moldy beams. Ed clasped Joan's arm, voice thick. 10 years and 2 letters, yet we meet by wordplay still. Jon clapped back, eyes shining. This time we choose our names, brother. He pushed back his hood. My cloak's black enough for the crow in your message. Wear your sparrow's feather proudly. Or are you keeping it for kings? Kings, Egg echoed. But the word tasted foreign, aspiring yet heavy. We swore to be dawn, not crown. Before either could speak more, thunder boomed so close the boards quivered. They looked up as if the roof might rip free. But the thunder did not fade. It resolved into hoofbeats, many and closing fast. Jon pressed ear to a gap in the wall. Armored men, too many for dock guard. Too few for Lannister host, Egg countered. The brothers exchanged a glance. Conspiracy had reached them sooner than their teacher. They slipped out the rear, across mudflats where reeds bowed beneath rain. From there, a path wound toward dark woods. A single candle flickered beneath boughs. The crow in girl's garb, perhaps, or silver sparrow. All paths pointed through storm-shattered salt marsh, toward the one destiny Varys had fashioned like a master carpenter, shaping secret compartments. Neither hesitated. Together they ran, one fair, one dark. Each footstep pounding rainwater skyward as if urging dawn to rise ahead of its hour. Aegon, 3 leagues inland, in the ruins of a sept gutted during the first march of the mountain clans. The brothers found a camp no larger than shepherd's flock. A girl sat near dead embers, cloak ragged as flag washed too long. She turned at their approach, revealing half-shorn hair and a black cloak pinned by a slender dagger. Eyes gray as dawn appraised them. "You're late," she said. Jon slowed, assessing. "You're Yara the Crow Girl, though the name's not mine." She sprang up, barely taller than Egg's shoulder. "Your spider says the realm bleeds. He'd stitch new seams? Needles are we." She drew 2 more daggers from her belt, spinning them until sparks shone in the low glow. "Will you sew or be thread?" Egg angled his head. "We can't mend what we haven't measured." She tossed a parchment to the dirt. Jon lifted it. Map of Riverlands, ink still drying. Crosses marked supply lines to the twins. The camps of Edmure's outriders, the rumored path of Tywin's next thrust. Catelyn Stark petitions the phrase, Yara said. Robb needs the crossing, but Lord Walder will want hostage or bride. One slip and the young wolf howls at empty moon while lions feast. The spider sent me to fetch you. Says your route runs deep enough to anchor the crossing. Jon rubbed mud from the map with thumb. My route, he whispered, tasting the word. Anchor, dot. Cousin? Brother? Blood unknown? It mattered less than the swirl of red lines and black beyond. Egg eyed the river sketched bold as a sword stroke. The crossing decides the North's fate. If Robb stalls, Stannis seizes the storm, Renly the reach, and Joffrey grows fat behind his walls. But many so all. So the crossing must open. Jon folded the map. And if Walder Frey bars the gate, We slip beneath it like water. Yara grinned. Spider knew you'd see cracks. Rain slackened. Dawn pressed uncertain pink upon the cloud's ragged edges. In its frail glow, 3 shadows melded as one. Jon fastened the direwolf paw ring to his sword belt. Egg tucked the feather ring into a pouch over his heart. They stepped from ruinated stone into rising light. Days later, Robb Stark's bannermen camped along the Blue Fork, tents shivering in chill fog. Inside the young king's command pavilion, a quarrel raged hot as any forge. Edmure demanded the twins' gates for honor owed. Greatjon roared at Frey, honor was shit. Roose Bolton smiled with lips, not eyes, and suggested trade of hostages. Robb's gray direwolf ghost. No, that was wrong. Ghost belonged to Jon. Gray wind snarled at tension thicker than cooked oats. Then, a herald lifted the tent flap and announced 2 surcoats unknown, a silver sparrow and blackhand steel crow. Robb waved them in, more curious than wary. The 2 men swept off hoods, one fair, one dark, each calm as still pawns. Your Grace, Egg began, voice carrying gentle authority learned in Liss. We bring terms to open the twins. Greatjon harumphed. What ruse? Frey sent no. We represent interests beyond Frey. Jon cut in, voice low as winter dusk. Interests of realms dawn, not dusk. Bolton's eyes narrowed. Speak plain. Jon laid parchment on table. Copy of Walder Frey's hidden ledger. Debts owed to Lysine Shipping Consortium. Egg unrolled second parchment. Charter offering the crossing for remission of each debt, plus import rights on Riverland timber, once winter broke. Your spider, murmured Caitlin, standing stiff. Plays merchant now? We play Dawn, Egg replied softly. Robb studied them, confusion fracturing into cautious intrigue. Maps rustled, cups stilled mid-hair. Outside the tent, dawn spread like spilled milk along the grass. Mist recoiled, crows cawed from naked willows. Inside, 2 bastard brothers, though none present knew the words, began to speak of bridges, debts, and futures, measured not by crowns, but by sunrises unfettered by war. They spoke until Robb Stark's brow smoothed, Edmure's protest wilted, Bolton's cold smile warmed by a hair. Terms reshaped, parchment rolled, messages dispatched to the twins. By nightfall, Walder Frey agreed to terms, though men later swore he cursed every sparrow in the 7 kingdoms. Whatever oaths he spat, the gates opened. Robb's host crossed the river. War moved forward, but so too did dawn. Jebin? In King's Landing, Cersei Lannister received word of Stark's passage with a goblet poised. Wine spilled, staining silk like fresh gore. She flung the letter aside. How? She hissed. Varys, standing in shadow near the tall arched window, folded his hands. Rivers change course for many reasons, Your Grace. Winter melt, fallen trees, or those who know where to dig. She paced, lion-red velvet sweeping. There's a shovel in this city, she snapped. Find it and break its handle. Her eyes were wildfire brimming the rim of restraint. As the queen commands. Varys murmured, bowing low. He heard the faint song of dawn behind his eyelids, brighter for every threat that sought to snuff it. Aegon. North of the twins, under clear starlight, Jon and Egg sat by a low fire. Robb's drums echoed distant as thunder across the plain. Jon polished a sword gifted by the Quiet Isle's master. Its edge gleamed cold. Egg turned pages of a leather ledger, mumbling interest rates, shipping tonnage. Numbers. Jon teased. Egg flicked quill dust at him. And blades. They shared a grin. Then silence, companionable. Owls hooted beyond the dark line of willows. 8 salt pans, Egg said at last, voice soft. I feared the root had snapped. Jon stared into embers. It cannot snap, he replied, steady. It grows deeper each time someone tries to cut it, like our wet nurse said. Egg nodded. But roots can also lift houses when they grow wide enough. Jon's eyes met his. Let's lift a throne instead. They clasped wrists. No titles, no crowns, only dawn glimmering at the edge of night. Somewhere in the dark, a nightingale sang as if to herald sun. And over the months that followed, tales spread. A silver sparrow at Frey feasts, charming old Walder into fair dealing. A silent crow guiding refugees through Lannister patrols. Riverlanders told stories of bread carts always arriving where famine bit hardest, coin sacks dropped into orphan hands at midnight. Some named the sparrow Tattered Prince Reborn. Others called the crow Storm's Shadow. But the small folk, feeling dawn before they saw it, whispered a single title and no knights could hear. The Bastard Brothers. And though neither Jon nor Egg heard the name, each sensed its echo. Roots whisper, even through stone. In time, Varys penned a new letter, inked in midnight blue. The lion bleeds the dragon's gold. The wolf howls at crossroads red. Stars fall on Blackwater's tide. If dawn shall truly break, its light must strike in unison from north and south at once. Come. What? Egg read the letter upon arriving in Riverrun Solar. Jon read his while, sitting astride a wet horse outside Riverrun's gate. They nodded in separate corners of dusk. Bundy. 5 nights later, under a moon hazed by wildfire smoke drifting even this far upriver, Jon and Egg stood before the ruined sept where once they'd met Yara. Now charred rafters jutted like ribs of a burnt leviathan. Yara stepped from shadow, hair regrown, daggers flashing. Spider calls. She tossed each brother a small brass lantern shaped like sunburst. Light these on the bay the instant wildfire kisses the water. Signal the turtle ships. Every green flame you see is a prayer for a freer realm. Egg hefted the lantern's weight. Surprisingly heavy. Jon sniffed the nozzle, nose wrinkling. Lamprey oil. Yara winked. Bright and steady in sea breeze. They turned south, war horses snorting. Ahead lay Blackwater, wildfire, lions entrenched in Golden Keep, and a stag's cold corpse upon a throne of swords. But beneath hoofbeat, beyond drum, Root thrummed. Deeper, wider, stronger. The dawn they carried in twin lanterns would set the sky ablaze or break upon it, like wave on rock. Either way, sun must rise. They rode, and the realm turned its battered face toward whatever light 2 lost bastards might summon from clamor and candle. Steel and silence, feather and paw, dreaming all the while of a morning where no child need hide behind false names, where crowns weighed no more than hope, and where the spiders of the world spun only silver strands to bind wounds, not throats. The first sparrow of true dawn called somewhere behind them. Neither slowed to listen, but both felt its note tremble through the vast living root that tethered brother to brother, bastard to king, night to day. Omgal, A can see. Moonlight drowned the King's Road in brittle silver as Egg and Jon pressed south. Iron-shod hooves ticking off icy miles like beads on a prayer string. They traveled light. Boiled leather jerkins dark as moat water, cloaks lined in lamb's wool. Daggers stashed in cunning seams. Beyond the reach of their campfire, the night hummed with hidden life. Field crickets, distant owls, the whisper of barren branches rattling in late autumn wind. Yet within that hush lay menace too, for war had set every hedgerow on edge. Riders prowled, tongues loosened by plunder, swords hungry for unattended purses. More than once the brothers glimpsed a ruddy glow on the horizon where some crofter's hut burned because banners disagreed. Glow gave way to smoke. Smoke drifted skyward, indistinguishable from clouds. They rode in intervals, 3 hours in saddle, 1 afoot to rest mounts, each change marked by Jon's soft whistle, a direwolf's call muted by hand so only Egg caught it. During these marches they spoke little. Words scattered by wind felt wasteful when breath might be hoarded. But thought, like river under winter ice, still ran swift. Egg remembered his years in lies, perfumed parlors, pink marble baths, and merchants who smiled while counting bolts of lace and bodies alike. He had learned to weigh the value of indulgence, to spot the seam where greed threatened to burst its own stitching. Now, passing shabby inns where beggars huddled for warmth beside empty ale kegs, he saw greed's opposite cousin, desperation. It shone in hollow cheeks, in eyes that tracked each rider for crumbs. Desperation was pliable, he knew. It bent under the right leverage. What leverage could he offer these folk but hope? Hope packaged in a tale of dawn. John's reveries drifted colder. He tasted quiet isle salt on every breath, recalled the faint toll of leaden bells that never rang. The silent brothers taught that all men carry ghosts in rib cage and skull, that justice requires hearing the smallest whisper of each phantasm before lifting a blade. Yet as the brothers neared King's Landing, those whispers swelled into a roar. Ned's execution, the wails of Septa Baylor, the guttural bellow of a crownless stag dying in his cups. Justice demanded a reckoning, but justice mistimed could topple dawn into endless dusk. He fingered the wolf-paw ring, grounding himself in metal's cool certainty. On the fourth night the wind turned and carried brine. The capital's scent traveled faster than its walls appeared. John drew rein atop a low ridge and pointed south. There, faint yet unmistakable, a greenish pall hung over the clustered lights of King's Landing. Wildfire stockpiles, he guessed. If an errant spark kissed the wind under such a veil, dawn might rise over cinder. "We'll make the city before daybreak," Ed calculated, scanning the ribbon of road that wound into blackness. "Best we arrive while sentries still crave sleep." John nodded. Varys keeps a postern by the Hollow Hill dockyard, an old Sally Port sealed in Maegor's time. His birds will watch. They nudged mounts downhill, hooves cushioned by damp loam. A fox darted between stones ahead, flame tail flickering before vanishing into dark wheat. Silence closed behind. Rain started an hour before first light, needle thin, cold enough to bite skin and quell dust. It softened hoofbeats, cloaked them in white hiss. But it also muddied the gullies leading into Blackwater Rush. Near the city's outer palisade, John dismounted and led his mare over slick stones beneath drooping willow boughs. Egg followed, heart tripping at every rustle. At last, they located a storm-scoured culvert wedged in crumbling masonry. Varys Mark, a chalk crescent hidden behind ivy. John tugged the ivy aside. Egg produced a narrow iron key from his belt pouch. Rust flakes drifted as he coaxed the tumbler. Click, grind. A slab of stone pivoted inward just far enough for a man to squeeze. They tethered horses in brush and slipped into gloom. Inside, rank air clung to nostrils. Brackish water, rat droppings, the ghost-sweet tang of decaying rose petals carried down drains from some high-born feast. They advanced single file through knee-deep runoff, lanterns shielded, boots sucking free with wet pops. After two bends, the tunnel widened into a half-collapsed cistern where bricks sagged like rotted teeth. There, a lone candle floated within a glass globe hung on wire. A spider's lamp. Egg touched Joan's elbow. They halted. From the far wall, mortar scrape. A panel slid aside and a diminutive figure appeared. Skinny boy, maybe 12, eyes huge in candlelight. He tapped thumb and forefinger twice, then motioned. Silent as smoke, he led them through the opening into a cramped corridor lined with barrels of green glass. John's stomach clenched. Wildfire. No torch dared flicker here. Instead, pale luminescent fungi striped the walls, eerie as corpse glow. Past the barrels, the passage angled up, then debouched into a chamber roofed by rib vaults where carved bats flitted frozen along stone. Varys waited beneath the central vault, serene in purple robes, sprig of mint tucked behind one ear. His smile warmed, but eyes looked weighed by sleepless sums. "You made good time," he said, voice soft enough for secrets. "Storms slowed many, yet you stride undrenched." "Impressive." John inclined his head. "Your maps shorten leagues." Egg studied the eunuch's lined face. "You summon dawn. Where do we cast our first ray?" Varys gestured to a round table crowded by figurines. Ships carved from driftwood, towers of bone, marbles glowing green, wildfire caches perhaps. Our Lady of Lions grows uneasy. She drowns fear in wildfire, stacking it along the walls, the river, the catacombs. Stannis sails, Davos steering through shoal and rumor. But the Blackwater's mouth narrows. One chain raised and any fleet crowns itself coffin. He tapped a wooden chain strung between mottled towers. Cersei readies to ignite the river. Pray ashes sink the fleet before rams bruise her gates. If she succeeds, victory lapses to whichever bastard calls himself heir next. He smiled thinly. No offense. None taken, Jon murmured. Egg frowned at the chain. If wildfire lights too soon, Stannis burns. If too late, dragonfire sweeps the city. Varys finished. Hundreds of clay pots hidden in septs and smithies. One spark in panic and he let silence paint the outcome. Flies buzzed near damp stone. So we timed the fuse, Jon said, tone even. Turn Cersei's gambit on itself. Exactly. The eunuch's eyes gleamed. I have acquired the Wildfire Guildmaster's ledger. 23 pots slated for sea launch sit now in a wharfside barn under Lannister guard, too drunk to count past fingers. If those pots vanish, her trap weakens by half. If they reappear, he swept arm across figurines. Where Stannis archers can sling them back, then the flames answer a different master. Egg considered. Barn raids, chain sabotage, message to Davos. All must dance in single night. Tonight. Varys confirmed. Stannis anchors by noon tomorrow. We have only moon's breath. Jon unslung his travel sack, producing Yara's sunburst lanterns. These burn lamprey oil, signal to turtle ships once wildfire brightens sky. Where shall we place them? South Tower of Rainy's Hill, Varys said. Abandoned after last quake. Shuttered windows view whole bay. Yara and her crows scaled the seaward wall, but ladder set is fragile. 2 fit climbers stand better chance. He eyed the brothers. Egg flexed gloved fingers. I've sweet-talked worse heights in lice. Jon smiled. Stone listens when feet speak softly. A faint clang echoed down the tunnel. Gatehouse bells marking 3rd hour before dawn. Plans fixed. Varys distributed silk pouches of coin stamped with foreign sigils. Bribes for gatekeepers. Hush money for deckhands. He also handed Jon a folded letter sealed with sable wax. A raven for the north, Varys explained. Should we fail, the Queen's hand will probe every shadow for guilt. Better Lord Bolton hold proof of southern treachery before blame curdles into rebellion within rebellion. Jon tucked the letter inside his jerkin. Bolton, he thought, snake in wool cloak. But serpents sometimes devoured worse monsters. Egg donned a coal-gray half-mask from the eunuch's satchel. It'll do, he judged, voice muffled. Jon chose a cloth hood deep enough to swallow his eyes. Together they looked like dusk and dusk's reflection. Varys bowed. May dawn favor its heralds. They slipped through another postern into a cellar stacked with barley sacks. Up a hatch, out a stable's back door, and into pre-dawn alleys they darted, 2 shadows merging with filth-slick gutters. Rain had ceased, leaving cobbles glossed black, reflecting torches spaced along the main arteries. The city slumbered fitfully. Muffled cries from brothels, snore of drunken gold cloak collapsed in doorway, occasional dog howling disquiet at looming war. First objective. The wharf-side barn. Egg led, weaving between laundry lines strung above tight yards. He navigated by sense. Fish offal indicated docks ahead. Rancid tallow signified tanneries to skirt. Jon matched pace, scanning rooftop silhouettes for crossbow turrets. At a crooked intersection they paused. A squad of Lannister guardsmen swaggered past, helmets lopsided, red cloaks stained, drunk as Varys predicted. Egg yawned theatrically, leaning against a shutter until boots clattered away. Barn loomed 2 streets beyond. Squat timber framed by flamegrass patches. Shutters latched, padlock thick as blacksmith's wrist. A single guard perched on a barrel, humming off-key, head bobbing like fishing cork. Jon whistled thrice, low notes buried in wind. From gloom behind haystacks emerged Yara, feral grin gleaming. She signed. 2 others en roof, 1 inside loft. Jon nodded, then stalked toward guard. Rain puddle reflected torchlight, masking approach. When Jon drew within arm's reach, he kicked the barrel's leg. Wood snapped. Guard toppled with a surprised grunt. Sleep-dull reflex grabbed for sword hilt, too slow. Jon's pommel convinced him dream better lying down. Yara dragged body into alley. Egg produced lockpicks. Tumblers surrendered quickly. The door creaked. Odor of resinous chemicals wafted thick through air. Inside, moonbeams fell through roof slats onto pyramid of clay pots swaddled in straw. Each pot bore a stenciled sigil. Green Demon. 23, as Ledger said. Jon traced a fingertip across one pot. Cool, lethal. He lifted straw bundles, fashioning crude harness. Meanwhile, roof prowlers descended on hemp rope, landing without rustle. They donned soot-black gloves, each cradling pot with midwife care. 6 trips later, the street outside lay lined with burlap-wrapped wildfire like overgrown gourds. How move them unseen? Egg asked. Fish cart, Yara replied, pointing to wagon near pier. Reek would mask chemicals. Jon helped lash barrels of cod atop hidden pots. Driver, a toothless fisherman allied to Varys, doffed cap Dotto. He would slip through gate before sunrise, rendezvous with raiding party under Stannis banners. Deliver surprise. Job 1 ended, they scattered. Guards regained consciousness to find only spilled ale and cracked barrel. None dared admit drowsing at post. Second phase. Sabotage the chain. Blackwater's boom chain spooled through tunnels beneath the mud gate, linked to massive winches. Egg's maps showed an older culvert intersecting chain housing, a sluice built to flush latrines directly into river centuries earlier. He and Jon waded again into night soil, gagging yet determined. Copper frogs plopped from ledges as they crept along slime-slick walkway. Ahead, torch glow flickered through grate bars, where 2 jailers gambled with dice on overturned crate. Their conversation revolved around which whorehouse might stay open through siege. Jon mouthed, distraction. He unsheathed dirk. Scraped metal along wall. Shrill echo. Guards stiffened, drew blades, squinted into dark. Egg tossed a pebble across tunnel, clacking behind them. Both cursed and advanced, leaving dice unattended. Bastard brothers glided from shadows, struck pommels to temples, 2 dull thuds. Guard slumped. Winch mechanisms dominated next chamber. 3 iron drums wound with chain thicker than a mast. Pilings groaned as tidal surge yanked weight outside. To sever such mass outright was folly. Better jam, delay lowering. Egg rummaged through tool chest, found wedge spikes. Jon hammered spikes between drum spokes. Chain tensed. Spikes bit deeper. He then sliced leather brake straps. Friction wheels would now spin uncontrolled if soldiers attempted release, snarling chain into immovable knot. Satisfied, they obscured work with discarded tarps. Time bled. Bells tolled in sept hours. Mornings first. Dawn-tinted sky with bruised purple. Third objective awaited. Lanterns on Rainey's Hill. City stirred. Bakers lugged dough. Rag pickers rummaged in gutters. Egg and Jon blended among them, climbing labyrinthine flights toward hilltop. Top. They passed shutters where children peered wide-eyed at looming galleys crowding harbor mists. Drums echoed from Lion Gate. Lannister soldiers marshaled. Abandoned South Tower reared, ivy strangling its stone throat. Lower arrow slits bricked, but quake-rent fissures afforded holds. Brothers scaled opposite faces to disperse weight, fingers finding purchase in cracked grout. Midway, a stone loosened under Jon. He froze, breath held, until weight rebalanced. Higher they climbed, lungs burning. Gulls shrieked overhead, startled from roost. At parapet they crouched behind, crumbled Merlon. Blackwater rush stretched below, wide serpent ringed by ships. To west, Gate of the Gods. To east, mouth of bay where Stannis' vanguard sails crept like night moths. Between, the royal fleet bobbed. A few dozen galleys, smaller than rebel armada, yet anchored across channel like corks in bottle. Below tower wall, Yara's climbers unfurled rope ladder. Egg set lanterns on mossy stone. Wait for green flame, he whispered. Jon scanned city. Cersei's wildfire stores could ignite any moment, but the barn's missing pots might delay her. Still, stray arrow or catapult misaim could break hell's jar. He prayed to nameless gods of dawn. Hours crawled. Sun cleared fog. Light clanged on bronze helms across ramparts. From Flea Bottom drifted smell of onion broth and fear. A cry rose, sail sighted. Harbor trumpets blared. Stannis' fleet advanced, proud lord of the waters at its head. Fiery heart banner snapping. Davos ships formed leading wedge. Royal flotilla scrambled lines. Suddenly, from city wharves, a lone empty ship drifted forward. No crew visible. Sail sagging. Wildfire vessel, Jon realized. Fused pots likely line its hold. Without chain lowered, the ghost ship would pass into open bay, perhaps burn harmlessly. Unless, torchbearer on pier hurled fire onto deck. Green eruption roared skyward. Ship became dragon of emerald fury, drifting toward Stannis. But wind shifted. Gust from east pressed flames back toward city. Tongues licking water. Screams rose as gold cloaks panicked. Yet Davos kept formation, ordering port oars backwater. Gap widened. Wildfire dragon slowed then slewed toward royal flank. Chain drums clanked within gates. Crew attempting half-raise to block remainder of fleet. Sabotage spikes screeched. Chain ground jammed. Merlons above mud gate rattled. Curses floated downriver. Flame ship struck one royal galley broadside. Cataclysmic boom. Shockwave rippled towers. Shards of green fire rained like meteors onto docks. Egg hurled first lantern outward. Blue oil flame blossomed, visible to watchers at sea. Minutes later, from beyond chain, turtle ships emerged. Low-draft vessels of lice. Hulls sheathed in brass plates resistant to flame. Hidden behind rebel vanguard, they now sculled forward, catapults armed with stolen wildfire pots. Sunburst signal guided them. Jon swung second lantern thrice, code for chain, jammed. Turtle flotilla shifted to starboard, avoiding shallows. Their catapults loosed. Arcs of clay demons soared and burst among clustered royal ships. Emerald blossoms merging with earlier inferno. Sky turned jade. Screams blended with alchemist shrieks as Guildhouse erupted when stray spark leapfrogged rooftops. From tower parapet, brothers witnessed chaos. Chain house afire, Lannister fleet engulfed, wildfire stores exploding along quays. Yet Stannis' main force advanced unbroken, guided by Davos weaving between patches of green flame, rowing hard for mud-soft bank beneath Red Keep's shadow. Time to descend. They clipped grapnels, rappelled down interface where Quake had sheared stones. Feet touched courtyard strewn with rubble. Yara met them, hair singed from stray spark. City gate compromised. She barked over distant detonations. Turtle ships deliver third wave at dusk. We need sabotage inside keep. Break Queen's resolve before she torches whole hill. Jon wiped soot from brow. Her last wildfire holds in cellars under Maegor's. Key kept by Guildmaster Hallyne, taken refuge in Red Keep. Egg exhaled. Steel key hide pots where they won't be used. Or ensure they burn only treason, Yara added gleefully. A horn bellowed near Tower of the Hand. Tywin's riders sighted. Capital rumbled, tension fracturing stone. Yara dispersed her crow girls across alleys. Egg and Jon sprinted through vacant pleasure gardens, leaping hedges. In mid-stride, Egg glanced left and saw small folk clustering at gates. Mothers clutching babes, smiths brandishing hammers they would not throw should gold cloaks order retreat. The realm's heart beat ragged. Inside Red Keep outer ward, confusion reigned. Messengers collided. Knights mounted and dismounted as orders reversed. Brothers melted behind linen drapes, flapping from laundry lines. Stealing guard disguises from unattended hook. Crimson cloaks reversed revealed drab brown. Helms shadowed faces. They infiltrated belly of Maegor's, descending spiral where torchlight flickered across Flademan frescoes. Footsteps echoed. Beyond heavy oaken door lay vault of Guildmaster Hallyne. Lab tables cluttered with beakers, scrolls, scented salts masking acrid bite of wildfire. Hallyne himself knelt packing saddlebags with vials. Panic guttered in his eyes. Egg slipped behind and clasped mouth. Jon pressed dagger at ribs. Key, he whispered. The Guildmaster fumbled bronze ring. Jon took Which door leads to final stores? Egg asked. Voice calm as library hush. Helene pointed, trembling. They bound alchemist with sash, gagged, stowed under table. Beyond indicated door a staircase, spiraled into gloom. They descended. Smell intensifying. Raisin, pitch, old smoke. Vault floor mosaic depicted dragons devouring sunseed high. Iron-banded barrels, stacked row on row, each chalk marked with star of 7. 40 maybe. Too many to move. Must disarm. John knelt, pried wedge from bung. Viscous jade ooze glimmered. He resealed. Sabotage demanded subtlety. Queen must think barrels intact until day she needs them. By then barrel's bile will refuse flame. Egg retrieved pouch of powdered sea salt and ground glass. Supplied by Varys for just this. He poured into bungholes, stirred with bronze rods. Mixture would neuter substance, cause fizz but no fire. They worked swiftly, sweat dripping. Above, tremor shook dust from ceiling. Impact of boulder maybe, or dragon's breath of wildfire on courtyard. Half-dozen barrels altered when footsteps clanged stair. John's heart lurched. He extinguished lantern, both flattened behind casks. Voices? Cersei herself? No. Higher pitch, frantic. 2 handmaidens descended, clutching candles. I must fetch lady's gift, one quavered. She said if Stannis breaches, we drink it. Essence of nightshade, John guessed. Cersei preparing mass suicide. Egg's eyes met his in gloom. They shared silent vow. Deny her that path. As maids located small chest at shelf end, John slithered behind, tapped heel lightly. Candles wavered. Startled maid whirled, blew out flame by accident. Darkness swallowed shriek. Egg darted. Muffled mouths with cloth whispered, quiet, you live. They bound women, left them seated gently against column. No death drafts tonight. More barrels doctored. Finishing, they replaced key on ring. Slipped upstairs. Helene still trust. They tipped him onto pallet, placed half-empty wine jug near hand. Scene of excess, not treason. Exiting onto terrace, they beheld Blackwater again. Sun climbed overhead, smoke pillars twisting. Stannis' soldiers now stormed King's Gate, battering rams pounding. Gold cloaks faltered. Red Wolf standard glimpsed. Robb's outrider detach? No, Karstark's perhaps. Westeros convulsed. Crow girls signaled from Crane Tower. Turtle Fleet reached wharves, offloading crates of bread not fire, handing loaves to starving poor. Hearts and stomachs alike captured. Egg exhaled. Dawn's first ember catches, brother. John's eyes narrowed at far ridge where dust plume marked Tywin's host galloping from west. Dawn must survive noon or break. He surveyed city walls, measured hearts. Inside Great Hall, Cersei wept rage onto Joffrey's shoulders, demanding every pot be flung, every bridge torched. But messengers returned. Change and barrels empty fizz, guildmaster drunk. As chaos thickened, Varys set ravens. One to Stannis proposing parley at sunset within Septi, safe conduct by Dawn's heralds. One to Tywin promising city gate unbarred if no sack ensued. Better 2 enemies eye each other than burn innocents. Egg and John convened with Varys in Rookery Loft. Pigeons fluttered around as catapults thumped rhythm below. Their faces smeared in ash, eyes alight. Varys bowed. You have peeled fangs from snarling maw. Now we temper rival blades into plowshare. Parley risky. John warned. Stannis despises duplicity. And Tywin bleeds gold before pride, Egg added. Therefore you must stand witness, Varys said. Neither Lord thrusts dagger when Dawn's heralds watch. Brothers exchanged glance. Speaking for Dawn meant revealing presence, perhaps names. But time for masks waned. Root demanded. They washed quickly, changed into storm-gray doublets, no sigils save rings. At dusk Septi bells tolled investiture of uncertainty. Inside starry sept candlelight bathed statues. Tywin arrived first, red cloak cloaking steel. Stannis second, jaw locked. each flanked by fewer than a dozen retainers, swords peace-bonded. Varys glided forth. "Lords of Realm," he intoned, "I offer impartial voice. 2 sons of Westeros raised beyond petty feud, trained to weigh dawn against dusk. They speak for small folk tonight." Egg stepped under candle. "I am Eric Rivers, once of no house. I carry feather of sparrow, symbol of humble's hope." Jon followed. "I am Nestor Snow, born beyond yet bound to realm. I wield wolf's silence, justice unswerving." Tywin's pale eyes assessed. Stannis' brow furrowed. He recognized discipline in Jon's stance, hint of north. Egg unrolled scroll. Casualty counts, grain tallies, fleet losses. 100,000 gold dragons burned in harbor while farmers starve. Another 100,000 gold dragons march with Dothraki if rumors hold. Ask not which lion or stag rules cinders. Ask whether realm can bear another night without bread or a dawn without suns. He spoke steadily, listening cadences trimmed. Jon stepped forward, voice low thunder. "I have walked cloisters where men confess crimes to dead stone, hoping whispers yield absolution. Stone never answers. Lives perched on your words tonight. Yield throne to trial of claimants come spring. Great council as law allows. Until then, share governance. Stormlands levy fleet rebuild. Westerlands fund grain stores. Each army withdraws beyond city walls. Small council seats parted equal." "Man." Silence simmered. Torches popped resin. Stannis' lips pressed white. "The throne is mine by right, but right that starves people becomes wrong. I accept counsel, if Boy King steps aside to Dragonstone until verdict." Tywin's knuckles whitened on pommel. "Lannister blood will not bend knee to usurper." Egg's eyes softened, yet sharpened. "Which blood soaks king's cloak matters less than which waters seed. Your house stands richest. Coin buys pride new halls should council decide otherwise. But if wildfire had consumed city, gold would melt to slag. How much pride in slag, my lord?" Tywin's gaze flickered to wildfire bruise, still smoldering on horizon. His jaw ticked. Finally he rasped. "Council, yes. But my grandson remains under lion protection within capital walls." Stannis bristled. Jon raised hand. "Warden's sworn third party. Nightingale Septi stands neutral. Young Joffrey may study there until council convenes." Nay. Debate swirled. Candles guttered. At last fragile consensus formed. Armies withdraw 2 leagues. Navy anchored downstream under joint watch. Grain flows reopened. Great council summoned at Old Town for first spring moon, where each claimant presents case to realm. Quills scratched. Witnesses sealed. Varys exhaled tremble of relief disguised as polite cough. Outside, brothers stepped onto marble steps. Sooty dusk birthed first true stars since battle began. Yara lounged on balustrade, flipping dagger. Spared flames, saved war. Sound night's work. Egg smiled weary. Night yet young. Jon surveyed crowd dispersing. Small folk peering around corners, dared hope. "You'll spread word." Yara nodded. Whispers travel faster than ravens. Varys joined them, clasped each shoulder. Dawn cracks horizon, but long road remains until sun zenith. "Your next task. Guide council to fair verdict. North and south both must accept. Council will ask our lineage," Egg cautioned. "Truth endangers." Varys' eyes shimmered. "Truth at right moment heals. At wrong kills. We shall weigh when root may surface." Babakri. Weeks later, as armies decamped, Egg and Jon walked among market stalls reopened. Children laughed chasing wooden dragons. Fishermen hawked silver-bellied trout. City scars not vanished, but scabbed. In quiet wine shop they toasted with watered arbor red. Egg traced condensation on flagon. "We are bastards still." Jon sipped. "Bastards of realm, perhaps realm's own sons." Egg's gaze drifted to sunrise cresting rooftops. Amber light gilded soot-stained tiles. Sun feels heavy yet warm. Jon clasped his ring. "Root endures." They smiled. Their journey twined on. To Old Town's marble halls, into webs of maesters, lords, and secrets larger than wildfire caches. But dawn had broken, fragile as glass yet bright enough to reveal path ahead. Path two brothers, born of lies yet loyal to truth, would tread until crowns meant nothing more than circlet of morning light around every head that dared dream. So the realm learned new words, not prince nor bastard, but herald. And in years to come, minstrels sang of the day dawn walked on two sets of quiet feet into a city poised to immolate itself, and gently turned the fuse to ash instead of flame. Ka. The whisper of gulls over Honeywine's wide mouth carried the scent of salt and distant promise as the river flowed past Old Town's pale ramparts. Candle-gray dawn had barely licked the tiled roofs when the bastard brothers rode along the Valerian Way, cloaks snapping in sea breeze. 3 months of cautious peace had shrunk a sprawling war into corridors of negotiation. And Old Town, with its basilican citadel, its septs and counting houses and spice bazaars, was the crucible where claims would either fuse or fracture. Copper bells chimed from the harbor beacons. Behind reed-fringed sandbars, galleys bearing wolf, lion, stag, and sun rose on morning tide like omens stitched in sailcloth. Egg reined his horse at the lime gate, where guards in green and white checked surcoats. Sigil of House Hightower. Crossed halberds. The elder sentry read the parchment of safe conduct, sealed with the Great Council's triple sigil. Sword, quill, scale. Recognition glimmered, replaced by wary respect. He gestured them through. Beyond, cobbled streets bent into warrens scented with lavender oil and cow dung. John scanned stone balconies draped with silks to greet arriving delegations. Bright Baratheon yellow, new mint florals of Highgarden, black kraken on sea foam. Raven banners of the Night's Watch even fluttered above an inn called the King's Mercy. Lord Commander Jorah Mormont had sailed to lend witness, citing precedent that every sword sworn to realm bore voice in great council. Their lodgings lay in an ivy-clad manse purchased by Varys through 3 shell companies. Inside, roving candles perfumed with lemon balm, offset lingering mildew. All. Yara lounged on a window seat, sharpening 2 stilettos. She arched a brow at their dusty cloaks. Your council summons tomorrow. All of venerable hands. Each claimant allowed 2 sponsors. Realm buzzes like hive. She flicked dagger tip at air. Which sting will draw blood? Egg unlaced riding gloves. How stands the tally? She spread a map over low table. Black pins marked claimants. Joffrey Baratheon inside Old Town. Stannis Baratheon quartered at Starry Sept Cloisters. Lady Shirian representing Dragonstone interest under Maester Pylos' guardianship. Young Tommen in Lannister wing for contingency. Golden pin for Myrcella. Her Dornish escort delayed by contrary winds. Grey pins dotted for Edric Storm, Gendry Rivers. Bastards turned prybars in rival hands. A single red pin rested on the arbor. Whispers said an infant rumored to be Aegon Targaryen had landed under Redwine protection, supported by Selsail fleet. Egg suppressed a grim smile. Their secret might soon roar. Jon pointed to a cluster of silver pins. Proxy electors. Lords without personal claim but heavy votes. Hightower wavers, he said. Reach will lean where grain prices rise. His finger slid northward. Bolton, Tywin's gold still glitters there. Manderley holds keys to Docklands. And Dorne, Yara snorted. Prince Doran arrives by litter. Gout, so they say. Sister Selzalies call him the Sand Turtle. Slow, heavy shell. Dangerous snap. She tapped a dagger hilt. Oberyn rides ahead with red vipers. City taverns already humming with his wagers. Egg shrugged off cloak. We meet each faction before speeches. Truth seeded early bears, sweeter fruit. They slept little, using lamplight to trace family trees onto parchment so wide it veiled wall tapestry. Targaryen intermarriages, Lannister alliances, Baratheon bastard lines. Strings of yellow silk connected keynodes, red silk flagged potential blackmail. white silk avenues for compromise. When dawn rose again, both brothers knew the chart by heart. The Hall of Venerable Hands occupied a colonnaded atrium behind the starry sept, a relic from the time of the faith militant. Gigantic marble hands clasped in supplication formed its frontage, fingers thick as siege towers, nails ridged with age. Beneath that stone handshake entered lords, ladies, masters, even Dornish Selspeers turned bodyguard. Murmurs swirled like many small creeks seeking river mouth. Egg wore charcoal doublet lined with dove-gray silk, unadorned save silver sparrow brooch. Jon matched him in black leather cross-tied by gray cords, direwolf ring glinting at index. They stepped between delegations. Bolton men whispering beneath leech-red cloaks. Tyrell knights exhaling rosewater. A gaggle of Braavosi envoys trailing seaweed-green ribbons. Voices hushed as the brothers passed, parted like grass blades around mailed foot. Some bowed uncertainly, as though courtesy might reveal loyalties before they had sold them. Inside the hall, benches organized by region formed a rising amphitheater around circular dais. Broad oculus above admitted a shaft of pale sun that crawled across mosaic floor, depicting Aegon, the conqueror crowning kneeling Westeros. Perfumed smoke from censers hung high. Maesters in striped robes bustled, inkpots clinking. Archmaester Valen, occupant of the silver candle chain, rang a crystal bell, echoes quieted, like ripples losing themselves on far shore. By decree of the faith, by charter of the conclave, by seal of lords paramount, he intoned, we convene the great council of 304 AC to adjudicate succession to Iron Throne. Let claimant speak. They know too well. Joffrey rose first, voice edged with teenage bravado, yet brittle as winter twig. I am king by my father's will, he declared. Sun slanted across golden crown, blinding some watchers. Murmurs rebutted. Father? Which? Tyrells murmured behind gloved hands. Stannis followed, lean grim, eyes like chips of frozen tide. Baratheon blood runs purest through my veins. Law is plain. I demand verdict. Then Edric Storm, escorted by Sir Davos despite odds, recounted his rescue from Dragonstone, his piety, his desire for peace. Each word felt humble yet heavy, forging empathy across benches. Finally Myrcella, arrived before midday's recess, stepped onto dais in dorn orange skirts. Princess Arianne sighed. Myrcella's voice trembled yet rang clear. Born of Robert, raised with needle and book, I would see swords traded for plowshares. Applause flared among southern benches. Egg and Jon did not rise, no claim to pronounce. They absorbed cadence, measured ripples in crowd. Bolton's eyes lingered on Edric, useful puppet. Tywin's on Joffrey, jaw grinding. Stannis' fiery gaze touched Egg once as though sensing rival potential yet undefined. Recess bells rang. Delegates spilled into covered walkways where fig trees shed early blossoms. Food stalls lined veranda, lemon cakes, smoked oysters, arbor amber. Politics fermented at every platter. Egg drifted among reachmen, praising Lady Margaery's grain relief to Stormland's villages, speaking low of joint shipping charters if Queen Regnant valued southern trade. He left them weighing prospects. Jon found Lord Wyman Manderley sampling eel pie. He recalled Maester Donnell of Quiet Isle, once told tales of Manderley honor. He spoke of White Harbor's dream to outshine Lannisport when peace reopened trade routes. A fleet needs sailors, Jon said. Canals of northern loyalty run deep. Wyman's blue eyes twinkled behind chins. He nodded heavily, grease shimmering on mustache. By sundown they had garnered promises. Few bold, most whispered. Yara debriefed inside Mance's inner court, where a marble nymph poured water into fish pond. Beside her, a robed stranger appeared, lean, brown-skinned, hair bound with copper ringlets. He bowed stiffly. I am Maester Salladhor from Summer Isles, sent by Archmaester Ambrose. The Conclave fears Maesters risk blame, no matter Council's outcome. Neutral arbitrator needed. He lifted raven black quill. I would lend quill to Dawn, if Dawn spares knowledge. Egg offered spiced wine. Truth always seeks scribes. That night, City hummed with torchlit revels. Pleasure barges drifted the honey wine. Sept bells tolled third watch. And beneath terraced gardens, inside ossuary catacombs of the starry sept, two men, in gold-trimmed cloaks, shared conspirators' murmur. Lord Mathis Rowan watched with lantern as Maester Picel knelt before old sarcophagus. Chiseling mortar, he pried loose a narrow lead tube, sealed with wax. Rowan frowned. "You are certain?" Picel's beard quivered. "Sealed in Maegor's reign, contains papal bull from High Septon that bastardizes all Jaehaerys issue save Rhaenys. Produce this writ and Targaryens lose standing. Baratheon lines, descendants of Orais, inherit by right." Rowan reached, but a blade kissed his throat. Jon emerged from darkness, mask soot-black. Egg stepped behind Picel, relieving the tube. "Knowledge kept in darkness molds into poison," Egg said. "We'll store it where sunshine bleaches lies." Rowan's jaw tightened. "You have no right." "Realm's dawn is birthright," Jon murmured. They withdrew, mischief quiet as bats. Morning council resumed. Tywin rose, face stern as quarried granite. "I submit new evidence," he announced. Rowan paled, found throat dry. Tywin's scribe shuffled parchments, the lead tube missing. Silence rippled. Tywin's eyes narrowed across hall, flicked toward brothers. Egg met gaze calmly. Tywin's lips thinned, but he sat without flourish. Picel never spoke, later found unconscious in chamber. Felled by sudden malaise, Yara brewed from basilisk blood and gallapple. Not lethal, just silencing. Warfare subtle. Maester Salladhor delivered Conclave's treatise. Precedents favored male line, but legitimacy overshadowed gender. Faith's recognition weighed. Adoption possible through royal decree. Regency allowed council guardianship. He concluded, since Robert's death, realm fracturing like clay lacking water. The council must craft vessel anew. Choose heirs twin, supported by regency of balanced houses until maturity. Now? Whispers bloomed. A dual monarchy. Archmaesters recorded frantic. Egg requested floor. Voice steady, he spun tale of two saplings grafted. One may bear blossom, one bears root. Together they yield fruit sweeter than solitary vine. The realm has had dragons of 3 heads. Why not stag and lion both, guided by strong branch of humble sparrow? Poetic, ambiguous, enough to sow concept. Jon followed. Storm's end taught me walls fall when hearts are stone. North remembers that a wall of ice alone does not guard realm. It is men, brothers sworn, bastards and lordlings both. Let us not ask who sits celestially highest, but how kingdom stands longest. Crown the realm with justice. Council of 6 regents from great regions, answerable each year at midsummer moot. Any sovereign crowned will kneel before will of whole. Some lords snorted, too radical. Yet others, jaded by war, nodded. 3 days of debate churned like summer squall. Late on third evening, disaster stalked. From Candlehand Street, ringing of steel, cries. Smoke drifted across river, tinted purple, poison delivered by unknown riders to water reservoir. 15 died. Small folk. Maesters, suspected strangler. City threatened a riot. Egg and Jon convened emergency session inside Temple of Whispering Reeds, a low lantern-lit forum offered by Prince Doran. Attendees: Marguerite Tyrell, Davos Seaworth for Stannis, Prince Oberyn, Lady Olenna, Wyman Manderley, Lord Beric Dondarrion, representing Brotherhood without banners, Salladhor the Maester, plus Silent Myrcella. They encircled reed-matted floor where 2 poisoned jugs lay. Jon knelt, sniffed water, faint almond after scent, seed of strangler, grown only on island of Lys. Egg exchanged glance with Davos. Someone frames lies, and by proxy Tyrell fleet contracts, or aims to ignite riot to break council formality. Oberyn's eyes sparkled. Chaos prophets claim it with strongest cavalry, Tywin by dawn I wager. Lady Olenna smirked. My roses smell treachery. I prune accordingly. They hashed plan. Tyrell healers distribute antidote. milk of the poppy, boiled burdock, honey. Red priestess from Stannis' entourage offers cleansing ritual. Brothers publicly oversee water purification, presenting unified front. At dawn, fishermen watched Egg and Jon shoulder buckets with Marjorie and Davos, pouring safe water into cistern. Symbols soared, bastards and nobles, north and south, laboring alike. Crowd cheered, riot quelled. Inside wrought iron balconies of Maester's Tower, a raven wing beat signaled new message. Very still in King's Landing, reported Tywin's host pressure in Tarbeck Vale. Cersei entrenched in rock to secure wealth, wildlings stirring beyond wall under King with golden horns. Dawn must hasten. Council final session approached. On eve, Egg wandered Tidewalk Pier where rotting pilings groaned. Lamps reflected in water. Footsteps echoed. A man in rough spun approached. Square shoulders, Valyrian steel sword across back. Jon Connington, once griffin hand to Rhaegar, now exile returned. 7 hells, Connington murmured, eyes moist. I saw you fall with mother among ash. Egg swallowed. I remember a flash of red, a man's arms, river water, then wet nurse's breast. He touched sparrow brooch, past buried for realm's sake. Connington pressed palm to heart. Kingdom bleeds for absence of rightful dragon. Say word, Golden Company unfurls banner. Jon appeared from shadows, hand resting on hilt. Aegon's claim currently disrupts tapestry we weave. Another thread pulled might unravel cloth. Connington's jaw tightened. You'd hide sun behind lantern forever. Egg laid hand on exiles. Not forever. Until clouds part. Realm first, crown second. When council chooses peaceful path, truth may soar. Until then, guard silence. Stand sentinel on far shore. When I summon, carry flame. Benison host. Connington hesitated, then knelt, pressing forehead to Egg's knuckles. As you command, my prince. He melted into alley. Jon watched tide swirl. Truth metastasizes when buried too long. Egg nodded. Yet it even seeds need dark before shoot. He clasped brother's shoulder. If council fractures, we reveal thunder. Aegon and Jon, each rightful in blood, alliances shift. Let hope we needn't. Great council morning dawned clear, gulls wheeling above Hightower's glass prism reflecting rainbow shafts. Delegates filed into hall, tensions taut. Rumor of poisoning still jittered nerves. Archmaester Veline raised sterling gavel. Margaery Tyrell petitioned first. We propose rotating Warden's Council. 6 lords, 2 years each tenure. Bridging crown and commons. Queen or king stewards, but does not rule alone. Pause, moderate. Davos read Stannis' concession. Shireen becomes heir after uncle's reign. Adric Storm legitimized, titled Lord of Tarth. Faith guaranteed rights for worshippers. Applause among Stormlands. Olenna spoke sly. If all names but one drop claim no war. So I propose we adopt Myrcella as queen, wedded to Edric Storm, uniting lines. Murmurs swirl. Tywin rose, voice iron. My grandson Joffrey retains crown. Council may impose conditions, but not usurp law. Ooze. Egg scanned benches, faces lined with fatigue. Eyes bloodshot yet yearning. Jon stepped onto dais unbidden, hush cascading outward. 4 moons passed. I crossed Blackwater to spare city from flame, he began. We called ourselves Dawn Heralds then. But dawn never arrives if watchers quarrel which hill best for sunrise. We stand at brink of generations' ruin. Walls to north whisper of giants rousing dead walking. Gasps. They had heard rumors but no lord confirmed. Letters from Night's Watch speak of foe ignoring sigils. Against that winter, which crown matters. He produced Varys' sealed raven reports. Read aloud glimpses. Whites at White Tree, horns of ice sounding in frost fangs. Hull shuddered. Egg ascended dais beside him. He shed brooch. Cloak slipped, revealing faint purple birthmark of dragon behind ear. Gasps erupted again. Aegon, he said softly. Hush absolute. Son of Rhaegar, saved by loyal spider, raised in dirt to feel small folks' hunger. I could claim throne this hour, call cells words, trade blood for oaths. Instead I choose realm over self. He knelt before assembly. Choose Queen Myrcella, King Edric, choose Stannis, choose Council of Lords, whomever fosters unity. I pledge sword, fleet, grain regardless. Ask same vow of every voice here. War ends tonight. Demonstratier. Shock rippled. Tywin's face drained pale, mouth opening yet words lost. Stannis' rigid mask cracked, pain and relief warred. Davos exhaled prayer. Myrcella wept silently. Manderley thundered applause. Soon Hall shook with stomps, banners raised. Archmaester Valen banged gavel futile. Lady Olenna cackled. Prince Oberyn applauded then shouted, "Let realm witness dragon kneel for dawn." Ovation roared. Tywin at last spoke, low but carried. If dragon kneels, lion cannot roar louder. He bowed head, first time in public memory. The realm votes. Balloting begun. Colored beads dropped into crystal urns. White for council regency, red for singular monarch, gold for joint monarchy. Maesters counted. Tension could snap. Hours later, Valen announced. Majority, 64%, white. The realm institutes trident regency. 6 regents representing North, South, East, West, Faith, and Commons, governing 5-year peace. At term's end, Great Council may confirm heir or extend regency, effective immediately. Crown passes to neutral steward, the Hand of Dawn, chosen by unanimous regents. Gasps, plan new house. Lists circulated. Stannis nominated Davos. Tywin nominated Kevin. Margaery nominated Egg. Oberyn nominated Jon. But Davos, Kevin, Jon declined. Egg likewise shook head. Yara piped from balcony, voice clear. Why not the realm's mother, Lady Brienne of Tarth, sworn to no house but honor, beloved north and south? Surprise. Eyes turned to Brienne, tall, pink-cheeked, golden hair escaping helm, guarding Edric. She blushed, yet murmurs respected her valor. Votes cast again. Brienne accepted dubiously. Applause soared. Outside, bells rang across Old Town. Small folk streamed streets, hugging strangers. War's end glimpsed. Tyrells unleashed wagons of fresh bread and roses. Dornish fiddlers strummed. On docks, sailors lit lanterns in dragon shape to honor Aegon's humility. In Mance courtyard, brothers watched fireworks. Alchemist guilds safer powders this time. Egg leaned on carved balustrade. We surrendered crowns unraised. Foolish. Jon shook head. Crown of trust heavier, yet shoulders strong. Storm yet ahead. The others, Cersei's pride, Euron's crows. But realm unites. Footsteps rustled. Brienne approached, breastplate gleaming with freshly painted 7-pointed star. She bowed awkward. I will need counsel, and swords. Will you serve? Egg smiled. Dawn heralds at your side. Jon grasped her forearm. First commission. Send grain north. Build garrison at Long Barrow. Prepare realm for cold beyond tales. Brienne's blue eyes steeled. Begin tonight. Weeks rolled. Grain caravans rumbled up King's Road, escorted by combined banners. Rivermen dredged chain links to salvage iron. Maesters forged white raven messages of peace. In Winterfell, Sansa lit candles for father. In River Run, Blackfish taught youths to gut fish, not men. Dragonstone's forges hammered plowshares. From stepstones, Celsail Coar Cortho turned fleet home when contract void. Yet on Skagos, Aurora glimmered above silent forest. A shape like man, yet not man, watched lights flicker. Blue eyes reflected dawn, unblinking. In throne room of Red Keep, Cersei smashed goblet, shard spraying. Qyburn knelt amid glass. My lady, lords demand your presence at council. She hissed. They usurp everything. Her gaze drifted to Wildfire Crater outside window. But lions still have claws. South. Aegon sailed to Lys incognito, meeting Golden Company captains. He urged them hold readiness to reinforce wall not crown. Enemies north of north will test our steel. They murmured confusion, yet trusted his coin. Jon journeyed to Dreadfort. Bolton greeted with cool courtesy. Over moonless meal, they discussed supply lines. Jon produced Varys' letter. Roose read, eyes glacial. Queen's treachery burnt, Jon said, and realm united. Might I trust flayed man sheath's knife? Bolton's smile flicked. Knives dull in peace, but perhaps I grow fond of blunt edges. Yet in cells below, Ramsay sharpened. On 9th moon after council, Raven from Eastwatch. Giant ice spiders glimpsed. Tormund Giantsbane seeking parley. Lord Commander Mormont calls banners. Brienne summoned regents. Egg and Jon rode for White Harbor to board galleys north. Dockworkers cheered, seeing direwolf and sparrow rings glinting. At Maiden's Bounty, they found Samwell Tarly clutching Maester's scroll packed with dragonglass mining claims at Dragonstone. Old books speak of Hearthblood forging Knight's Bane, he panted. Brothers nodded. Dragon and wolf forging weapons to slay darkness. Poetic symmetry. They sailed Icewind Pride into narrowing daylight. On deck, under auroral shimmer, Egg turned collar high. If dawn came once, he murmured. Can we kindle it twice? Jon gripped rail. Dawn a promise, not event. Must be kept each night. He raised spyglass. On horizon glittered wall, ice face tinged rose by dying sun. Below, hold crammed with lumber, grain, dragonglass arrowheads. The ship's bell tolled as shadowed wings circled overhead, ravens bearing scrolls from Varys. Euron crowned himself Storm Kraken, fleet heading for Shields. Tyrion escaped trial, rumored en route to Essos. Daenerys Targaryen marshaled freedmen in Meereen dragons grown huge. Egg folded scroll. More pieces. Jon smiled weary. We'll keep weaving. Icewind Pride docked. Snowflakes spun. Night's Watch lined pier. Black silhouettes against pallid ice. Mormont saluted stiffly. Beside him stood Tormund, wind-burned grin. They ushered heralds into dim hearth hall where direwolves carved in lintel snarled mild welcome. Mormont spread map. Ice fissures across frost fangs. Dead villages, white shadows. Need allies or wall falls. Egg placed small wooden dragon on map's edge. Dragons may fly beyond sea soon, but men unify first. Jon set Direwolf peace astride dragon. Bastard brothers once pitted for crown stand for dawn. Let the world learn from wall outward. Recruitment began. Karstark, Mormont, Umber pled an army of lumberjacks, miners, spearwives. Tyrell shipments of oats flowed via sea. Even Dornish sent sand steeds. Oberyn personally escorted Spear Squad. But winter deepened. First blizzard hammered camp. One night, horn blasts pierced gloom. 3. Shadows moved beyond torches. Jon and Egg led sortie under dancing green and violet sky. White surged. Dragonglass daggers hissed, flesh sloughed, bones cracked. Egg's blade parted shadow, ember spark spitting. Jon saw icy blades slice Manderly's sergeant in half. He roared, surging. Beneath flurry he glimpsed figure crowned with antlered icicles, a creature of myth walking. They retreated behind new palisade. Whites withdrew like tide. Dawn revealed silent carnage. Frost bit tears. Egg met Mormont's weary eyes. Hold until spring council sends dragons. Jon added, and pray dawn holds ground. Days turned. Raven arrived from Brienne. Regency ratified new taxes to fund wall. Tywin succumbed to lingering fever. Some whispered poison. Cersei arrested when found scheming to ignite wildfire store beneath Casterly Rock. Myrcella betrothed to Trystane. Edric betrothed to Margaery, cementing alliances. Brotherhood patrolled riverlands, mediating disputes. Great North remained crucible. On eve of midwinter, sky rained shards of blue comet. Brothers watched from rampart. Egg exhaled, breath ghosting. Symbol, omen, dragon or doom. Jon squeezed shoulder. Both, perhaps. But whichever, we stand. Under Comet's tail, ravens beat wings south, carrying messages of resolve. Night's watch stands with dawn heralds. Winter foes met with fire and ice. Far away in Marine, Daenerys stroked Drogon's obsidian scales, gazing west. She held letter from Aegon, invitation to unify dragons with wolves. Her violet eyes narrowed thoughtful. Horizon burned orange. And somewhere deep below Winterfell crypts, a soft groan answered cold wind through cracks. Ancient kings shifting in stone beds, listening to new songs sung by bastards, made brothers, sparrows crowned, wolves unchained. The realm, scarred yet breathing, turned another page. And dawn, delicate yet persistent, continued to creep across each battlefield. Each council chamber, each frozen rampart, spreading light knit by two children, once hidden in a fisher's hut, now wielding hope in place of crowns, proof that even bastards could claim the sunrise and share it freely with a world long starved for day.